Ooh, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? What's up, everyone? I'm back. This a couple of days ago. How you guys been? So please let me know if the audio is too loud, like the music. It's fine on my end, obviously, but I want to hear it from you guys. So, coolio. Is the audio okay? Hello, 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 Bojesh, David. Nice to see you, man. It's been a long time. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So is the audio okay? Great. Great. Thank you. Well, I can't say the same for you, obviously, because I can't see you. But thank you. All right, everyone. So today I had an epiphany, like after our last stream. Actually not the last stream. After the release stream that we did with the new features on ZBrush for iPad a couple of weeks ago, I would have to say. Like, I can't remember. It's been crazy. So I think I showed you the axe, right, that I made on the ZBrush for iPad with the surface noise, UV maps, with displacement maps, and all of that. That release, basically, it's been crazy. We had 7, I have to say, like 6 releases since the iPad launched, so it's been great. And I showed you this axe over here, right? And this axe, a lot of people were commenting and asking, like, how would you retopo this? How would you make this from scratch? Did you make this from scratch on the iPad? And yes, that is a yes. And I thought I might as well just do a stream and break down the process a little bit for you guys. And potentially, if we have time, because, you know, like, time's short nowadays, especially with with Christmas coming up in the next couple of weeks. So it's been a little crazy. But yeah, if we have time, I would love to show you guys, like, how would make this properly game ready. How would I retopo this? If I wanted to print a section, for example, what could I do to make this printable? If you guys wanted to make your own props and then print them for, I don't know, like cosplay or collectibles, toys, whatever you guys want to do. So, and I decided, okay, let's do a Q&A, and I'm going to do a little bit of a demo and answer any questions you guys might have about ZBrush for iPad. Not just ZBrush for iPad, let me add, because again, there's this thing that I keep pushing people. This is not, ZBrush for iPad is not like a separate like application. Well, it is technically, you know, you download it on the App Store versus, you know, Maxon app, but it is part of the same project. You know what I mean? It's ZBrush. So the developers that develop ZBrush are the ones developing the iPad and vice versa, right? So it's part of the same tool set. So if you guys want to think about it like this, think about it like the iPad is just a new set of possibilities, of extensions, of features that I have with my desktop license, right? So if you own ZBrush on the desktop, now you also own ZBrush on the iPad, which is essentially the same software. So you just have the ability, which changes everything, to be honest, have the ability to do that on the go, right? So ZBrush for iPad, ZBrush, any questions you guys might have, just throw them my way, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So I already have a few comments here. Let me see. Okay. Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. How about you? I'm fine. Yeah. You like everyone can go eat pizza with any time and talk about nerdy details about the next. Oh yeah, I'm that person. I never shut up, man. That's a big problem. I never shut up about geeky, you know, 3D modeling things and video games, and, you know, particularly those two. Never ever shut up about those two. So yeah, and it's great. It's good to see you guys. It's been too long since I've done like a solo stream out of the blue, and I am gonna try to make this a more regular event next year, for sure. So yeah, so let's take a look at this, right? Again, feel free to interrupt me. Just throw the questions on the chat, and I'll get to them. No worries. I don't mind being interrupted. Actually, I think that's a good thing sometimes. But yeah, so I made this model for that presentation we had a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to showcase how do I start a model like this. So you can see that it has some live booleans over there. It's actually cut into. How do you make these straps, and how to, well, actually sculpt the details. It's kind of like straightforward, right? But how do you actually shape this up from scratch on the iPad, right? If you have an idea, if you're like outside, you're browsing through, I don't know, so you're at a games convention, or you're, I don't know, at a library or at a coffee place or at a zoo, you have this crazy idea and you're like, oh my god, I need to put this somewhere. So what do, right? That's the first thing. So today, actually, right before the stream, I was actually doing this little demo to have the model in a more in an earlier stage, right? So I would have to say that it is still pretty much the same process as you would do it in ZBrush for desktop. So right, so you do a lot of like high poly modeling workflows, and then it would be retopoed or using dynamic subdivisions with live booleans. You can do live booleans with high poly as well. So already got a few questions without using ZModeler. Yeah, so I wanted to do a game ready asset without ZModeler. That was my intent in the beginning. I didn't get to the retopology phase, but it is possible. And I did send it over to GoZ to unwrap the UVs to make UV, because you have UV Master. UV Master is still not on the iPad. Again, the iPad is it's been 2 months, guys. Like, it's been released like 2 months ago. So I did send it over with GoZ, which is like super fast, and I'm gonna risk doing that on this stream because we're streaming over the internet. It might not work, or it might lag the stream or whatever, but let's give it a try. What the heck, right? So Agartha Jewelry, yay. Margarita Silva, you know. And you want to know if creating a low poly Maya is even a good idea or not. I mean, sure, you can do. I mean, guys, you can do whatever, right? You can start with your low poly and Maya, bring it over to ZBrush, sculpt the details. This is how I used to do. I used to use ZBrush before the pandemic. Basically, I used ZBrush for like detailing. That was it, right? But once you get into those features, those extra, you learn the ropes, let's say, it just becomes so much more, it's faster, right? Because the back and forth between software is just not necessarily the most, sometimes the most optimal way of doing things, just because it takes time. And if you for some reason you make a mistake in your retopo and you have to depend on another software to do that, you'd have to go through that whole process again instead of staying inside the same ecosystem. So, right. So this is kind of like from Imagination. I was looking at some reference, but it isn't like a copy directly from Imagination. But what I wanted to say is that this is mostly sculptural workflows, high poly workflows, and I'm going to try to start one from scratch. Let me pull up my reference real quick. So I have a few reference images. I might try to do something else, a little bit different maybe. So let me pull this up, and let's go to my ref. Ref. There you go. Wait, is this it? Yeah, this is it. I have so many tabs, man. Yeah, I have no idea. It's crazy, man. It's over 100. Easily over 100. So just reference, there's like at least 50 tabs I'm going through. So I use PureRef sometimes as well. Yeah, and on the desktop I use Spotlight. But all right, so let's do this. Let's base ourselves on this, but not maybe a little loosely. So obviously you start with any primitive, and on ZBrush for iPad you actually still have to make it Polymesh 3D, and you have the initialize and all of that. But I never use those primitives, right? Not even on the desktop. If you guys have been following me for some time, you know that I never really use the iPad. I never really use the primitives that come with the initialize thing, like the make polymesh, the tool primitives, just because if you look at this, it has a weird pull, even though we're probably gonna dynamesh this anyway. But it is a good idea to keep things very simple, especially in the beginning, right? So yeah, so wow, a lot of questions. I like this. So how did you create such an organic shape for the blade? All right, that's what I'm gonna try to go through that entire process. There's so many ways you could do that, man. You can use clip curve brushes, you can use life booleans, you can sculpt that. This is what I did. I actually sculpted that. And then, I mean, whatever. You think it's better to do everything inside of ZBrush? I wouldn't say like everything, but modeling and even UVs, I have to say, man, all of my environments that you guys see in my portfolio, whatever it is, they are completely game ready inside Unreal, working as a playable game level, basically. All of them were mostly done in ZBrush, including the retopology. And then the UVs are like 50-50. It's like 50% ZBrush, 50% other software. But just because the first pass of just actually unfolding and selecting the creases and all that is just so much easier and faster in ZBrush. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, if you don't know that, if you don't know like the ZModeler crease unwrap by crease, or if you don't are not aware of the UV master workflows, then that is going to save you a bunch of time because it's so much faster, man. And then once you do that, all I do is pack my UVs in other software. Like, I pack my UVs, I assign material IDs and all of that, so then Unreal can read that and optimize the number of textures I'm using for a game, right? If it's not a game, it doesn't really matter. If it's just to showcase the model, works fine. Just UV master and done, right? Send it to Substance, send it to whatever, right? So yeah, I try to keep everything inside of ZBrush when it comes to modeling and mostly of the UVs, but that's just because it's just faster, right? And if you're an environment artist, you're gonna model a whole ton of models, trust me, for a single environment. You're gonna model a lot. And if you're doing the entire environment alone, that's like, dude, you have to cut corners and do whatever is the fastest, right? So, great questions, by the way. Cool. So, right, so I start off with a primitive. I go to my gizmo. And on my gizmo, I usually go over to this gear icon. Now you can see you have your deformers. And on the top, you have your primitives, right? And if you select a primitive, you actually get these little cones, these 3 little cones over here. And by the way, this is always this disclaimer I do. Whenever you see a blue dot like that, that's my finger. 2 fingers, 3 fingers, whatever it is. And then when you see a white dot, which is actually not showing for some reason, it is my Apple Pencil. So let me see, maybe it's because I have, yeah, that's it. Well, it's working on the UI. For some reason, it's not working. Oh, it works in the UI, that's it. Yeah, okay. So whenever I start with very basic shapes. This doesn't really matter because I'm gonna dynamesh this, but let's start actually with the cylinder. So for the handle, right? And I want this handle to be curved in some way to create an interesting silhouette, an interesting shape. So if I do this, and then I would hold Alt, and then just make it very, very thin, and then elongate it a little bit. There you go. And for the handle, I usually keep it to. I use the dynamic subdivision workflow, which is under the tool palette, geometry, and on, where is it? Dynamic subdivisions. There you go. So you turn this on, and now you can see you have a little preview of how the mesh is going to round out. And since we have a few divisions here, it's actually going to be pretty sharp, those edges. Doesn't really matter again, because then we're going to sculpt on top of that. But yeah. So if there's no edge loops, let's say, in between the model, you just go over to creasing and you crease by angle. So this is what I usually do, right? Question, just building my PC for ZBrush and character creating for films and games. I have 64 gigs RAM. during the airflow right now. Any suggestions for tuning the system? Well, if it's for ZBrush, you want to get memory and CPU. There's almost nothing on ZBrush, almost. Again, there's like 2 or 3 features that uses the GPU. So the GPU is kinda irrelevant unless you're doing rendering in Redshift, right? If you have Redshift and you're doing GPU rendering, that would speed up your workflow. But yeah, I would say the more RAM, the better. And obviously your SSD, the faster your SSD is and the more space you have, the better. So the more space, it means you have more space for caching. So, you know, the operations run smoothly, especially stuff like ZRemesher and Decimation Master and all of that do cache the model onto the disk. The faster your hard drive, the faster that goes. Yeah. So we do this, and then what I usually do to start blocking things out is I just hold Control and duplicate this, and then change my primitive to like a cube. Then I want to change this back to my gizmo, and I want to flatten this out and flatten this. And sometimes I even go in and I actually go with my Move Infinite Depth brush, and I just start blocking out a shape, right? So let me just take a look at this real quick. Let me go over actually to the settings, to the draw, and I want to up this max draw brush size just because it's, for some reason, my model is huge. So I can, wow, okay, this is weird. What happened over here? Oh, no, I want, what do you mean 128? I want 2000. There we go, 2000. So now I can go a little crazier. Yeah, there we go. So I have a big brush now, and all I want to do, I actually have this brush palette over here, docked over here. If you want to do that, just hold up any palette and then undock it like that, and you get this little extra menu that you can just add palettes to it. So I have the brush menu over here, then I have my actual tool palette, and then the subtools over here. This is usually how I work. So here I am turning on and off AccuCurve. And some of you might know this, but AccuCurve gets you a fine point when you're moving something. You're using a move brush. So yeah, so let's just do this simple shape. I'm looking at that reference over there. So I'm just trying to move. And keep in mind, I have like not a lot of polygons over here. So you can see there's not a lot of it. So I want to keep this shape like super simple, like as simple as possible for now. So I want to keep the shape, at least the silhouette, matching kinda my reference and what I have in my mind, right? So there's something like this, and then it goes a little bit like that. This is going to be flat anyway. So you do maybe something like that, and this could go like down here, and there we go, right? And you could also just then split this. But yeah, for now, this is fine. So this is like a block out shape of like the overall shape of that axe formation. I can also just come over with my select and clip curve brushes, and I'm gonna hold the space bar over here and just clip that, making sure that is straight. It's never going to be perfectly straight just because dynamic mode is on, and you can see this is without the subdivisions. It's going to be with the subdivisions. I have a custom menu for that. You can also create, you know, custom menus like this on the iPad, which is really cool. So yeah, now I want to keep blocking this out. So I want a part in the middle. So maybe I'll just drag another mesh, go over here, get a polycube, and then I want to go to my gizmo and home button so I know it's centered. Whoops. And I'm going to move this up. Wow, it's kind of laggy for some reason. It's 4 million polygons. This shouldn't be a problem, but whatever. So there you go. So now I have this. I'm holding Alt to just scale on every axis except that one. And this is the gist of it. This is basically how I start any block out. It's kind of like you're doing characters, right? I've seen a workflow where people block out characters with the different like muscle groups, like in a very basic shape. It's kind of like the same thing, but it's not characters, basically, you know? So, whoops, Daisy, that's not what I meant to do. So I just want to make this longer. Maybe go like that or something. Yeah, so it would be something like this, right? And now, as we're doing this, one thing that you want to keep in mind is that you want to speed up your workflow in terms of blocking out. Let me think, if this is going to be a one-sided axe or a two-sided axe, if it's going to be two-sided, what I usually do, let me just split this one. Whoops, wrong one. Just get back my select rect brush, and then just control tap that, invert that selection, and go to my, whoops, not the brush, tool, subtool, and I'm gonna split hidden. So that's a different subtool now. And this is something this is advice I don't usually follow myself, but I'm gonna start naming this. So this is gonna be the handle. And this is gonna be the blade, right? And then it's gonna get ruined. I'm trying to be tidy and clean, but you guys know it's not gonna stay like that for long. So yeah, we have the basic shape, and now we have the blade. What I usually do if I'm gonna do a two-sided one, like I did for this one, it's two-sided, right? Is I am gonna use array mesh. So if I go to array mesh over here under the tool palette, and I want to, give me a second, and I want to turn on array mesh, I want to lock the position. So if I go to my transpose line, you can see the pivot is right there. And then if I reset, where's reset? It's down below, I think. No, where's the reset? Pen options. Reset. It's going to reset that pivot to the center of the world, right? So now, after resetting, I can go down here to align and do an X mirror. And now everything I change on one side is going to translate over to the other side, because this is just an instance. This over here that you see over there is just an instance of my original mesh. So if I move on this side, keep in mind my symmetry is off. So I can move from one side to the other without being destructive. So I can look at my design completely without any... without thinking of mirror and weld all the time, and maybe I forgot symmetry, and it's not, ideal. So let's say, let's get this shape. Actually, I'm gonna need something a little bit longer, and maybe something like that. I'm trying to look at that reference. So this is gonna be the tip, the top part of the blade, and I want to have something like this. I want some flat subdivisions on my, actually, they're not there. So I'm gonna go to geometry. Under dynamic subdivisions, I want to add a couple of flat subdivisions, maybe not that many. Either that, or I want to crease, right? So I can go over here, under geometry, go down to crease, and then just crease based on an angle. 45 degrees seems fair. This is maybe a little too much. Let me try that again. Crease, and I will reduce the crease level. There we go. And now what I can do is I can move this down and have this be like this shape. So even as I'm doing this, obviously this is starting to get ridiculously big for a blade. So I can just start, scaling down the blade, going like this. Whoops. Go to my gizmo, and then scaling it down. Whoops. Careful with your focal shift. Needs to be in minus 100. And then just keep pushing and pulling. Reverts till you're happy with that shape. I'm never going to be happy with this shape. So, okay, doesn't matter. So for what I'm showing, doesn't really matter. So let me just go a little bigger. Maybe this is enough. So now if I have this done, I have it like in my custom menu, I can actually go over here and turn off array mesh and turn it on. I have my array mesh custom menu, so I don't need to access the tool palette all the time, right? David, let me see the questions. Gonna graduate this year. In 3 years, a good decision. Yes. So yeah, regarding the 3D industry, that's yes, that's yes. If you like it, if you're passionate about it, then for sure. Because you don't want to just keep this in mind. Do you really want to spend 40, 50 years doing something you hate, even if it pays well, right? So I would say yes, go into the 3D industry. Don't go into the industry for money. Go because you like it and the money will come, right? You want to get a job, sure, but get a job in something you like if it's a career, right? Nothing wrong with having other jobs. That's not the point. The point is you really want to do a job that you really like if you're going to do it like 8 hours, maybe more a day for the rest of your life, right? And because this is not easy, right? It's not an easy industry. It's not like, you know, there are easy jobs and there are hard jobs. It's obviously not by any stretch of the imagination as hard as being like a doctor. You know what I mean? Like a real job. but it is a very technical, very, very deep and complex job. So if you get into it, you might as well like it. Otherwise, you know, it's not going to go well for you. Just because you won't be able to take it. So yeah, and in terms of like the industry, obviously we have a few hiccups in the industry, in the games and film particularly recently, but that is nothing that is comes and goes like all the time in the industry. And it's like there are so many industries that use 3D that, I mean, ZBrush alone is like in 13 industries. A lot of people don't know this. They just think, oh, games and film. It's like, yes, but also there's, you know, manufacturing, there's toys, there's collectibles, there's medicine, there's forensics. There's like a whole bunch of industries where ZBrush is represented. So if you know ZBrush, you have the option. If you're a good ZBrush artist, you have all of those options, right? So I don't know, is there any way to add your own brush folders and tabs? Yes. So you have this down here, you have these bars, the custom toolbar, and you can add not only your brushes but also your alphas, your textures, and even like Dynamesh and ZRemesh or whatever. So I have these here, and you can see, you can see I have this that I showed on one of the videos, and I just have my Gizmo 3D, my Dynamesh, you know, all of this in the custom bar. So all you have to do is go over here to the top to the customize menu. And then on the customize menu, you want to go over, this is the palettes, right? So you can just go over here and say, okay, I want to maybe create a new one. Oh, I don't have a new one. So I'm going to drag all of these and throw them away just because, you know, so throw that away. And now I don't know, I have some user materials. I also have some user brushes. I know a lot of you guys use the orb brushes, right? I use them all the time. So I brought them from the desktop. You can do that if you own ZBrush desktop, you know, subscription. So you can basically import whatever, like brushes and alphas and all of that. So let's say I want to get the Mallet Fast brush for this project particularly. I want the orb cracks, the orb flatten, and maybe the orb rock detail, and that's it. And now I want to go maybe. I want to do the clay buildup brush, and there's some hard surface ones that I use, like planar, like H polish and trim dynamic, bevel arc sometimes, but that's fine. And then you want to do some alphas, for example. You want to go alpha, I don't know, let's try something else. I have a user alpha over there, so I can do that. That's fine. And then you want to have also our, let's say, our Gizmo, and we want Dynamesh, Sculptors Pro, and our subdivisions. That's it, right? So now we go back to our empty menu and just let go, and there they are. And you can reorder these in any way that you like, just by adding them again and then going to the beginning of that toolbar and just moving them around. So now if I check, this is the bar that I just made. So you can make a custom toolbar, and you can make the quick, like, custom menus over here with actions from the palettes. I don't know if that answered your question. Change the step size when you move with the gizmo. Holding shift, you can set rotation angle with some limitations. Z plugin misc. Well, Z plugins they're not here on the iPad for sure, but you're talking about making, let me see. So going over here and then doing this and then holding shift, those steps. Is that what you mean? So this is basically, it's based off the sensitivity that you have on your tablet and on how close you are to the model, right? Because the closer you are, the smaller steps you can take. So now you can see if I'm super zoomed in, actually I can actually go one by one. You see that? Like not one by one, but 0.01 by 0.01, right? So it's dependent on the camera. You have to zoom in and then move it a little bit, right? So that is basically what I would do. Yeah, or brushes are well, you can donate on Gumroad to Michael Vicente, and I would advise that you guys do that. He's an awesome artist. But yeah, they're the brushes from Michael Vicente. He made that. So yeah, so basically we have this, right? Let's go back to this. Otherwise there's not going to be a lot of time. So what I can do is I usually apply my dynamic subdivisions, and now I go over to my subdivide menu and I delete all my subdivisions and I dynamesh, right? And I just use dynamic subdivisions just to have to keep myself from going into details too soon, right? So if you go over here and do dynamesh, let's up this resolution a little bit, maybe like 470, and click dynamesh. Oh wow, that's 5 million. That's a lot. You don't need that much. So yeah, that's 400. Maybe we can go a little higher, like that, when it's like 1 million. There we go. So let's try again. Let's go dynamesh, 200, 1.9 million. That's good. That's good enough. So now what you want to do is you want to start using your clip curve brushes, right? So you can do stuff like this. Go over and shift control and then click clip curve. And now you have the option to, to do this and then start designing that silhouette, that shape, right? So in my case, I want to do something like that. So now it's just flattening those polygons, not deleting anything, right? That's a different brush. And now you want to go over and I want to do this. And then I want to tap Alt to do that. Tap Alt. And then maybe over here, I want to start curving in and then curve out. And then I want to do that. And now it's clipping that, right? And all I care about is the silhouette at this point, right? So now I want to do that. And I want to make this bottom part as well a little bit flat. And now the back part, I want to do maybe a little more rounded shape like that. And maybe I want to do this and then double tap Alt. And then do this. And then double tap Alt. And then do this. And now if I click, I have this, right? So let's say you have the base of your shape of your blade, and over here maybe I want to do a little bit of a cut as well, like that. Whoops. Something like that. Maybe actually something like this. Right? So this is really unnecessary, to be honest, like this section over here. We could actually just cut that old thing and then just make another model over there. So yeah, so let's do, maybe I wanna do like an actual blade. Let's just do this over here and then do that. There we go. So now it's basically a very flat, simple shape, right? And if you have this flat, simple shape, I actually like this silhouette. So I might as well just move it in a little bit, and that's it. And now you're like, okay, but how do you make those, how do you make the blade like sharp at the edge, right? So you can do this sculpturally, obviously, and this is what I do, and then I retopo, right? If I want to have a clean ish mesh. So what I usually do is I start, well, first of all, I want to do a little bit of an interesting, so the silhouette is not as blocky over there. So this is my silhouette. I actually should have this open at all times like that. I want to use the clip circle or maybe the clip rect, and instead of the rect, I'm going to do a circle, square center. And this is going to do is this, right? And now if I let go and hold spacebar, I can do this. Whoops, it's the opposite. I want to do that. Actually, I want it to be smaller. So it'd be something like that. And I'll press hold Alt, let go, and now you have a cut like that, right? So now it's just sculptural, right? Read Dynamesh. And now what I usually do is I go over with my trim dynamic and I turn on symmetry for the first time, but I'm going to use it on the Z axis because I want it to go from side to side. And this is fairly simple, right? So all you want to do is we want to start at least tapering that in. So you could start sketching that, right? Or you could do it out. So you have to think of this like a sculptor. You want to build clay. You want to add clay. Use an additive method. Or you want to wick. You want to start, chopping wood, let's say. So if you want to do that, if you want to add, I would just start by using the clay build-up brush, just going over the entire thing, maybe over here as well, and this one, obviously, and then this one. So if it's going to be something like this, so you have two ways to go about it, right? Oh, this is not centered. Oh, shit. Okay, let me just go back and let's turn off symmetry, center the pivot, go home, and then move it out again. So it'd be something like this, right? So you have that option, and then you trim dynamic. Or you can go over here. If it's a straight, like if it's a sword or something, it's easy, right? You just use the bevel arc or the bevel flat. The bevel arc and the bevel flat would do something like this. If we go art surface, bevel flat, you click and drag, and then when you move back your brush, it's gonna flatten that edge, like that. So obviously this is not really what we want because we want to go over. So that's why I went with the sculptural approach, right? So the sculptural approach for me is first pass is gonna be just going with a trim dynamic and just starting to add that. I want to turn off lazy mouse, actually, or at least reduce that radius. And I want to go like big brush. It doesn't need to be perfect. Again, all you need is to break that edge. You want to break up those edges. It's lagging a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe it might be because I'm streaming. This is weird. Oh, it's local. Okay, this is bad. Okay, let me just go local again, turn on the gizmo, and now I want to do a mirror and weld, actually. So I can go over and mirror and weld on the Z axis, and there we go. And now if I sculpt on one side, it should give me both. Exactly. Okay, so now I want to do this as well, over there, and this over there. And you can see what's starting to happen. It's kind of like you're sharpening the blade yourself, right? So you want to do that, keep doing that, and you can maybe reduce this Z intensity a little bit. So you can go a little bit slower, so it's a little more refined. And then once you do that, we want to do this as well. So you can see that. You can emphasize that with the DEM standard. That's fine. We're still in sculpture mode, right? So we want to go in and do something like this. It doesn't need to be perfectly sharp because, again, we're going to retopo this. And the low poly is actually going to be the one that has to have a sharp edge over there. And then once you subdivide it, it's going to round it out just a little bit. So I want to do this piece over here. And now if I want, okay, I'm losing a little bit of that sharpness over there. I can go with the move infinite depth and then just go to brush, curve, and turn on AccuCurve. And now what I can do is I can go over here and move these points like that to emphasize that shape. See that? So you can do that, And now you have this. And what another thing you can do is do the same thing with the actual move brush. And since we're in symmetry, if you want a point in your blade, just go over here and start pushing that with the AQ curve. And now you have this little tip, little point. You see that? So this is basically how I would do my blades, something like that. And then this be something like this, actually. And now, again, with the trim dynamic, keep working on this till you're satisfied with the results. This is probably a little bit too thin to be relevant, this part over there, but it's fine. We can work with this and keep going like so. And you can start to see it's starting to shape up, right? The design is starting to come together, and allowing you to be a little bit more creative. Than imagine doing box modeling on this, and then you don't like the design, and you're like, okay, because you have to think about this. If you have reference, it's irrelevant how you get there, right? If you have an exact reference, then it's fine. But if you're designing as you go, you want to be as flexible as possible, and that's where ZBrush really shines, right? There's no other software like ZBrush in that regard, because now nothing that I'm doing is absolutely definitive, right? It's not like I'm married to this concept or to this axe, right? And again, I'm looking at reference. There's nothing wrong with looking at reference. Actually, you should absorb as much reference as you can, but I'm trying to make my own design in a sense of this axe that I have here. And I just like the symmetry of those two-sided axes, right? So here, this is a very basic design. It's already, basically this is good enough for a block out, right? So you can go over here, maybe do this, or maybe you want to keep it flat like that. I actually like this a little bit flatter. So if you don't want this side, you can also go over here. Let's say this, I want this side to be flat as well. So I can go over here with my planar brush, and then, whoops, I use the planar brush all the time, and then tap this and hold Alt, and then you're just pushing those verts like that. You see that? And now you can go back with your trim dynamic again, and then just flatten that area out. And redynamesh, I can redynamesh to just make my mesh a little bit more workable as I go. And again, this needs to be a little thinner. Whoops. And I'm big on using these like undo buttons, but I could just tap with two fingers and I'm undoing, and 3 fingers I'm redoing. So that's also intuitive, especially if you're on the go and you can't really hold everything or whatever. You just use your 3 fingers, the one that you're holding the Apple Pencil. So there we go. And now we have this very basic concept of what this looks like, right? So now I can go back to this, let's say, and I'm going to go with my gizmo, and I'm going to duplicate this over. I want to split this, so I'm going to go to Subtool, Split Unmasked Points in this case. So this was unmasked, so now, because I was dragging it over, so now I have it as a separate subtool, and now I could just start keeping up with the design, let's say. I want to make this flatter. Actually, I want this to be in the middle and then flatten it out a little bit. So it'd be something like that. I don't know. And now same thing for this shape. This is one workflow, by the way. I have multiple workflows. I'm kind of like I have a little bit of an issue because I can't just use one workflow. I like to experiment a lot. And that's the cool thing about ZBrush, that allows you to experiment freely on the go with the designs you want. So let's say I want to do actually something a little different. I want to go and I want to do like this, and I want to make this actually very, very thin. And let's make this on the center and push this over there. And now I can turn on transparency and ghost mode, and I'm going to move this like so. So it's going to be like an organic-ish kind of shape. like that. Right? And now, again, I can go to the array mesh. For some reason, let's say you want to duplicate an array. This is very simple. It's just array, lock position, reset, mirror. But if you want to duplicate a complex array system that you have with array mesh, you can always go to your array mesh menu from the subtool that you already have, the array mesh step. And you can come over here and save. Or you can go to your offsets or whatever it is. Where's the copy? Is there a copy? Oh. Is there a copy? There it is. Copy. And then go to your handle. Well, handle 1. Again, I told you this naming thing. I just call this, I don't know, like blade support. Support. And I can go over here and turn on my array mesh. And then go down to the append and just paste. Right? But first, actually, let me undo. First of all, I need to lock position. Right? And reset. In this case, because I want the pivot to be in the middle. So I want to go over here, reset, paste. And there you go. Now we have that, right? So, again, now for the wood and the organic shape, right? For the organic shape of the wood, what I want to do, first of all, I want to start making my grain, my wood grain, right? Because it's going to stretch, right? Because I'm bending it over, and that stretching will give you enough irregularity that it's going to create interesting shapes, and you're going to see, right? So first of all, I always duplicate this one because I might not like the design of what I'm doing. So, and I can always undo and whatever, but I always duplicate to have a low poly version just in case I want to have maybe something else poking out, or I want to reuse that for something else. I don't know. It's a good idea to do that. So, and it's very low poly, so I can just easily duplicate it without having a hit in my performance or whatever. So I have this, turn off that, and then go over and start positioning this. So I have some geometry over here. Actually, I only want that pole. So let me select this one, hide the other one. And in this case, I actually can just delete hidden. So geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And now with this, I can go over here and actually, made a mistake. So, okay, I can go over here, hide this one. Whoops. And go back to my select rec and, whoops. And I want to split this one. So I want to split hidden. But now on this subtool, I can go back till I have both. There you go. And this one I don't want to see. I want to see this one and this one. So this one right here, which is this subtool, has some edge loops, right? It has 886 points actually. So, and if I want the step to be 0.5, no, it is 0.01. So if you move this, if you go over here, and I'm going to move this with my gizmo, right? So I'm going to reset this. And if I click the gizmo and then hold shift, it is already below 1 unit. It is 0.01, which is the minimum you can move in terms of like, it's literally a hair's breadth. It's the difference is a hair. Like that's the scale of ZBrush, because the scale of ZBrush is by default very, very small. So you can literally just move it just 0.01, and then if you jump to another application, it's going to be like so tiny that you won't be able to tell, right? You want to step? Yes. I can get the hard brushes free. Yeah, that's it. So going over this, again, I want to go and start applying. What I want to do is actually do some surface noise. So I'm going to go to surface noise, turn on noise. And I want to create a pattern over here. So I want to up the scale, up the strength a little bit. And now if I go to curve, I can go to curve transformations, and I'm going to squish that. I'm just going to squish that and maybe make this curve a little different. I want to make this a hard curve and a hard curve again. So if I do this, this is what I'm getting. And I can stretch this as well. And maybe this is too strong at the moment. And maybe I want something like that. And I want the scale actually to be super big. So you can see that. And I think that is it. So go into curve. And I want this to be sort of like this. There we go. And now I want this strength to be dipping in, but not a lot. This is using the canvas projection, so there's a point where it tiles. But I think this is good enough. I actually could just invert this to make it something like that. And maybe the curve, I want to add some variety to that. So something like this would work. I don't want that much grain. I just want a little bit like that, just to be like a template. And I want this to be curved, actually. I can make this curved. There we go. Done. So now we have this. And actually, I don't want the noise to have any color, so I'm going to go to color, and I'm going to type 0 over here in color blend. So it's not going to blend the color based on the surface noise. Good streaming. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you soon, man. Have a good weekend. So yeah, I do this, and then since I have some geometry, and this is procedural noise, if I start rotating this, you can see the noise is still tiling upwards. So what I want to do is I actually want to start applying the noise. I apply the noise immediately. And actually, I want to apply, but I have to subdivide this first. So I want to go to my, dynamics menu, and just apply that. And now apply the mesh. And now I have some variation. Not a lot, though. I don't want a lot. I want this to be like that. And now what I can do is I can go over here with my gizmo, and I want to use the bend curve. So there's two things you can do. Let me just delete the lower. So now we're working with almost 1 million polygons, and I can use my bend curve. And you can use these cones. This is the resolution cone, so it adds points to that curve. Then you have the smoothness curve, which smooths out your points. And then axis, you can change the axis, and you can tell it to be symmetrical. So if I turn on symmetry and I do this, it's going to do on both. So you could do like crazy stuff with this, right? So in this case, I don't want it to be symmetrical. I just want to shape this to be a little bit different. So I can do this. Maybe I want to up the resolution by 1. I want this to keep up, or to do that, something like that. So it'd be something like this. So it's not like perfectly symmetrical. It could be. It's fine if it is. But this is basically it. And then you can tag one of these little points. And those points also have cones. And this cone does squishing. So it basically squeezes in. And this does scaling. And this one basically twists. So you can also, going back to this point, just twist this. And it's going to twist the entire model. So I'm going to go over here, twist it. Actually, I want this to have 0, just 2 points. And I can twist this the opposite way and then twist this. And now I have wood grains going in a spiral upwards, right? So it's just a layout, though, because I'm going to go through with a pass of sculpture, right? I'm going to sculpt on top of that. So, okay, so I want to go over here and click accept. So this is the decision I made when it comes to like the handle. And now, before I go into like retopology and stuff like that and stuff that's more technical, I want to show you something real quick. So to do the straps, because you can see that in my other model, I had some straps. I had, there's the wood grain over there. We have like some surface noise with a specific pattern over there. And I'm going to tell you how to create, I'm going to show you how to create this pattern or something similar. I have the pattern loaded, but I can make one from scratch for you guys if you guys want. So in ZBrush iPad, you can still do VDM brushes. You have bas relief in. You have IMM brushes. You can create all sorts of stuff that you do on the desktop as well. So it's not limited to in any regards when it comes to like the brush system. The brush system is the core of ZBrush. It's the most powerful brush system in the market. So what I want to do is I want to create a brush, let's say, with those alphas, and then I can either sculpt with them, do a roll in case I have like a specific pattern I want to do, or I can apply it as surface noise. So, but before that, let's go over the straps over here. So the straps, they have multiple ways you can go about making them. So you can either start by using polygroups and then panel loops, right? So I'm going to duplicate this again just to show you two different methods, right? So I'm going to duplicate this handle. I'm going to solo this. And let's say I want the straps to be like over here, right? Let's say that's where I'm going to optimally hold the axe, right? So if I'm going to do that, I can do either going over with a slice curve brush. And then if I go to my brush, actually, let me go to my brush through here. I prefer that. And I hold this slice curve brush. I can go to modifiers. Is it modifiers? No, it's clip curve brush modifiers. And I want to set B radius. And what B radius does is going to look at the brush radius. That's what it stands for. B radius, brush radius, right? And it's going to create a strap of a polygroup, right? So if I look at the geometry over here, I can actually turn off the line temporarily so you guys can see. And if I do this, you can see it's going to clip and not clip, it's going to slice, and it's going to create 3 polygroups. It's going to retain the previous polygroup over there. That's going to create that polygroup. You can see it matches the brush size, the focal shift on my brush. And then it's going to create another polygroup over there. So you can do this, and then you can just do that, for example. And now you have another one over there. Now you have some straps. See that? So, but obviously these straps, they're not really realistic. They work fine if you're doing like straps on the hand and stuff and you can hide that. That's fine. But if you really, really want to make the straps like go around something, like you would, for example, if you're doing like a samurai sword or like the what do you call that? It has a name, like where you put the sword back. Like, so if you want to do that, then you want to use something called the IMM. Where is it? Is it an IMM? Is it an insert mesh? Yeah, the curved flat surface, the curved flat snap. So what this does is I'm going to start drawing a curve, and it's going to create a flat strap, and it's going to snap to the surface. So even if I move this, you can see it's still snapping to that surface. Every time the curve is on top of that model, it is snapping to the surface. You can see that over there. Actually, let me Control Z that. And so what I can do now is I can go to my brush settings real quick. Let me go to here and go to modifiers, I think. Yeah, IMM brush. There it is. Try parts, weld points. There you go. Curve resolution, max bend angle. I want some more of a bend angle. And I want the brush size to be smaller. And now you can see I have some straps over there. So what I can do now is I can just start drawing that strap along the surface. And if you have having trouble seeing what you're doing, you can actually go to your brush to depth and have the depth go like, I don't know, a little bit over. Maybe not a lot, but like 0.1. This does not work with a comma for some reason. So 0.1, for example. So it's just, come on. Does it not work with a, doesn't. Yeah, it's just 1. It's an integer. So yeah, let's go 5. So now if I draw that, it's gonna go a little bit over that geometry. So I can go over here and I can start drawing that. And then as you can see that little line when I'm hovering over with the brush, like very close to the last point, it means it's going to continue that curve. So I can go over and just keep drawing this. Keep drawing. Then you want to move this a little bit. Whoops. You want to move that. Whoops. Let's go. Rotate that. And you want to maybe, whoops. Keep drawing that strap, going over, drawing that over. So what you can also do is actually change this resolution over here. So where is it? Curve res. Yeah, so there's more straps to it, and the res itself. Whoops, I just go like that. Actually, I want this resolution to be small, because I want this brush size to be small. There we go. So I want this to move, and now I want to keep drawing. Keep drawing. And let's say this works, and I'm like, okay, I want to move this curve to snap it. So I want to do that, and then you could keep moving that curve. Actually, let me take this out of the way. And I want to add the stroke palette as well, by the way. There's a stroke palette. Where's the stroke palette? Stroke. And on the curve, you want to repel and start curve steps. Actually, the curve steps should be 1. Let's see. Yeah, so you can tweak it to make it tighter. And now I want to draw this. Keep drawing. Like that. Then like that. Whoops. Let me make this draw size very small. Wow, that's probably too small. Let me just go down. Yeah, okay, so let's go back to where we were. Let's try this one. Let's do 2. Let's keep this to 2 and have some sub steps. Yeah, okay, this does not work. Curve modifiers, projection, position. No, that's fine. It has some depth, so it's on purpose. So let's try to move this curve around and then keep drawing and actually move it down to make it match that surface. So yeah, so you have this, and let's, oh, come on, why is it not? Okay, there you go. Keep drawing around the shape, and then every now and then just touch the curve a little bit so it snaps back. And then you do that, and then you touch the curve a little bit. And it doesn't need to be perfect, because you can always just project it back. So let's say this is what I want, and I can tap, whoops, I can tap this, and now I have this polygon, which is unmasked actually. And then you go over to your subtool palette, and you want to split unmasked. So I have this strap over here. And now I can actually go in and go to subtool, go to project, and just project all. And have the distance be a little bigger. There you go. And what I usually do when it's a flat polygon, like I do with ZModeler Retopology, is go over here and under the dynamic subdivision, turn on dynamic subdivision, but I want this to have some thickness. So I'm gonna up this thickness, right? And I'm gonna have the offset be outwards. It's gonna go like that. And now in here, I wanna turn off post subdiv. And now I can manually place this, right? So what I did for the other model was I did this all around the model, right? And then I duplicated over. So what I can do here, for example, is I can actually go over and move this with a bigger brush and just move this up. And then I want to actually duplicate this, or I can use array mesh. I can go over with array mesh if you really want to be non-destructive and just do it once. So you can go to array mesh. Where's my array mesh? There you go. And now you want to lock position, and you want to mirror in the Y and in the X, for example. Actually in the Y and the Z. Yeah, there you go. And now you can move it. For example, you want to go over to your offset. Turn it off and on. On the custom menu, there's some issue here. So I want to go Z amount and push it back a little bit. Maybe this doesn't work as well. Yeah, I might as well just duplicate this, so it's fine. Just go over with a gizmo, center that. And now I'm going to duplicate this and rotate it around, for example. And just place it sort of manually over there, right? And now I can also just run it auto groups So they're both a different poly group. And this is still, if you go over to your dynamics and turn off dynamics, this is still like flat polygons, right? So what I usually do now is I want to go to my move brush and I want to go to my settings and auto masking. Where's the mask? Where's auto masking? Auto masking. And I want to make this topological, right? So where's topology? Topological. If I turn on this topological button, why is it not working? Huh. Topological. There you go. Topological button. Even if I move over here, it's only going to move one of those straps, right? So this is perfect because now I can turn on my dynamics back on and then just make them dip in to that surface, right? And then I want to make this out like that. And then just make a single strap work. And then the rest will follow. So I want this to be, segments, I want this to be 0. Uncrease all, actually. Yeah, uncrease all, I'm gonna crease it after. But yeah, let's crease it actually. Crease speed G, there you go. And then we can uncrease it. So in this scenario, I wanna go over here. Maybe wanna make this go in like that. Push this out a little bit. Push this out like that. And I want to make this one go in like so. And push this one out. So something like this. And then this one could go like that. And you're guessing it, right? What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to duplicate this and make like a couple of these straps. So it'd be something like this. It's going to get rounded out at the end of the day. I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger. And this gonna go like that. Right, so it would be something like this, right? And then I want to make this non-topological again. So I'm gonna go to my brush settings, auto masking, turn off topological. And I just want to move this into position. So it'd be something like that. Turn on topological again. Make sure this strap is kind of like working. Ah, come on. It ain't working. So let me get the topological off and just move this out. Move it in. So it'd be something like this, for example, right? And now with topological on again, big brush size, move this in and move this out. And then we can just move this up. So you'd have, whoops, something like that, right? So we have these straps over here, right? They're looking kind of normal. And now what we can do now is actually just duplicate this. So I can go over with my gizmo, move them down here, and then just hold control and drag. Or I can use array mesh, but I mean, I'm pretty fine with this. Also, if it doesn't really match and you want to change like the overall shape, again, there's still a deformer here called deformer. Deformer called deformer. And the deformer that's called deformer is actually a kind of like a lattice deformer. Think about this as like a lattice deformer, right? So let me just do, I don't want symmetry over here, but I want symmetry over here. And I can move this. I can just mask this point and then just move this like that and mask this one, mask that one, go like this. Maybe want this to be a little thinner over there. And yeah, and you can adjust this on the fly after the fact. So 2 things you can do now. you can either apply this with the thickness, or you can just apply a regular dynamic subdivision, and then use panel loops. What I usually do is I just go with the thickness, just because it's easier, simpler, straightforward. So, and then go over with the smooth modifier. Where's the post subdivision? Yeah, turn off post subdivision. And I think that is it. Okay, so I want to go over here, go to accept, and these are my, I'm gonna go on auto groups, and these are my basically my straps. So now if I apply, since they have two different polygroups, if I apply first, apply the thickness, and then where's the thickness? Jesus. If I apply the thickness first and then apply auto groups, it's going to get the back face and the front face of the straps in the same polygroup. And I don't want that. And you're going to see why. So I'm going to increase this actually. Why is this so thin though all of a sudden? What's the thickness? Okay. Yeah, you want some of that thickness. There we go. And now I actually want this to clip a little bit like that. There we go. And now what I want to do is I want to apply those. And if I apply now, I have 180. And now if you look at the polygons, you have actual geometry on the back, right? So this is good. And you're going to see why. Because what I want to do, if I want to start making this look like cloth, in a sense, what you can do is you have subdivisions, right? So you can go and let's say go get a pinch brush, for example. Not the cloth brushes, but go get a pinch. I'm going to go with letters over here. So go to pinch, click pinch. And now I can go to my brush settings. And where it says elasticity, I want simulation iterations all the way to 100. And what this is going to do is it's going to use the dynamics palette, right? So basically the cloth simulation palette in ZBrush and simulate it as you draw on the surface, right? So, and this is also important. This is why I wanted thickness, because I don't want this to affect the back. I want the back to be flat, right? So what I want to do is I want to go back to my brush and under auto masking, turn on topological again. Not topological, sorry. Not topological. I want to mask by groups. So I want to do mask by polygroups, go to 100. So now if I start drawing that on this polygroup, it's only going to affect that polygroup. And you can see that the top part is not affected and the back part is not affected. That way you make sure that they're always sitting where you want them to sit, right? So you wrap a tinsel around the handle with a little Maxon logos hanging off of it. A tinsel. What is a tinsel? It's like a banner, a little banner or something? Yeah, sure. Could do that. So let's go back a few subdivisions. And then we can start like maybe making these big folds. They don't need to be perfect. You can also use the brush, right? The standard brush. So one of the things you noticed probably is that this geometry, well, it's very much squarish, but is not optimal for sculpting this way because it's a flat surface initially, right? So what I want to do is I want to start maybe doing some manual strokes over here. Like that, right? And just smooth out that surface. I want to use smooth directional because I want this to retain those creases. And I'm using the DAM standard with smooth directional. Or I can use the pinch with simulation iterations. And now I have these very fine kind of like simulations, and then mixed with the smooth directional, you're going to get that result, right? So again, bigger brush size maybe, and let's do, you see that? That is not what we want. So we want to go down a few subdivisions and now do that, or maybe do the DEM standard workflow. So I want to do this, for example. maybe not that strong, but something like that. Then Alt, and then go up the subdivision levels and use your smoothing directional to make those straps, right? And then you can always just go in with your move brush and just adjust that to make it sit nicely on the, let me just check if this has topological, yeah, and mask by polygroups, I want that. And I want to move this so it, oh, I don't want AccuCurve as well. So go to curve, turn off AccuCurve, and just moving the pieces where they need to be, because I reduced the thickness on the dynamic subdivision sliders. It's fine. We can always inflate this as well. So yeah, this is basically how I did the straps. This is basically the process. So for the straps, this was basically it. And then just sculpt with the pinch and the simulation iterations with dynamics on, right? And then for the, well, for the base is pretty simple. But what I was going to show you is actually how to retopo this, make this a clean mesh, right? So you have two ways. As you guys know this, you've been asking all the time. There's no Z modeler and ZBrush for iPad yet, right? We're working on it, but there is multiple ways still that you can do retopology. And I'm not talking about ZRemesher, right? I'm not talking about automatic retopology or whatever. Because you don't want this to be automatic. Well, you could, but you know. You could just go over here and do a clip. There's one way you could do that. You go to clip, then go to your brush settings. And under clip brush modifiers, you don't want B radius, you want polygroup. So now what ends up happening, whoops, Alt tap that subtool. What ends up happening is you want to, let me just turn off my array mesh. You want to clip just a little bit of that section. Whoops. You want to clip just this tiny bit. Then let go. Now that's a polygroup. So now you're guessing, right? What do you want to do? You want to start slicing polygroups and then ZRemesh that and use the polygroups for that and ZRemesher guides and ZRemesher control paint. All of that to aid ZRemesher to get the exact result you want. And that is very much possible. You can definitely do a game-ready mesh that is obviously a static mesh. If you want to do like specific edge loops and stuff like that for animation, you can still do it. It is possible. It's more than possible. I heard people in the industry telling me it's not possible, and I showed them, and it's possible, right? You can get great loops for animation with ZRemesher, all right? And that's a topic for a different stream, but I can definitely show you that. But okay, so you can do this and then just ZRemesh with keep groups on. But what I'm talking about is actually hand retopology. So you can go over here to the topology, and there's a topology brush. This is the most intuitive, let's say, way of doing topology for the first timers, let's say. And what you want to do is, this is a curve brush, right? So you're doing this, and then you're doing this, and then you're just drawing your polygons. And then Alt dragging outside, and there you go. And then you can always extend this like that, and then just keep drawing those polygons. And then just reduce the draw size to 0 and tap on your model, and that's what you get. Oops. That's what you're getting. Those polygons, right? So this is retopology with a topology brush. And this is obviously not just used for retopology. You can make stylized eyebrows or whatever. Or you can make straps. Again, I could have made my straps for the handle this way and not rely on a strap curve brush, right? So what I want to do, and this is what I did for my retopology on the iPad, was just draw a line in the middle of the entire model. It doesn't need to be perfect, again, because we have the ability to just squeeze that into the center again. So it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be there, right? So you want this line to go over around the entire model, like that, and then like that, and then like that, And then like that. Obviously, this is not finished. I would have sculpted this a little bit further before going into this phase, right? But you can still get away with this. You can see this is not a point. It should be a point, but whatever. So we're gonna go like that, and we're gonna go like that. Whoops. Like this, and then like this, all around the model. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna retopo this part on the side, on one side actually. So I was using symmetry to make sure it was steady in the middle. And now what I can do is I can start doing the same thing, but around this edge. So just drawing it like we just did with the strap curve brush, right? So I'm gonna go like that, and then just draw around this side of the model. So basically what you're doing is, it's kind of like, you know, manufacturing. When you have a manufacturing drawing that is basically a curve, like a NURBS curve, right? And then you just bridge those two NURBS and you get the surface. That's kind of it. That's kind of what you're doing. But what you're doing at the end is actually designing polygons, right? In this case, we want quads because we still want to sculpt on top of it. This one actually is the one that needs to be more precise. So something like that, then like this, and then like this, and there we go. And now comes the cool part. So with your both your curves, what you want to do is you just want to start drawing your polygons like that. So I usually start with the more like the sharper angles like that. And then you can see I need an extra polygon over there, so I might just do that. Now we have two polygons over there. And now we can do this. Whoops. We can do this, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. And now I'm retopologizing my entire weapon in ZBrush. And obviously this is not, it has too many polygons for like a game ready mesh. It depends on the game, obviously. Yeah, the poly count is always very subjective. And I was told by a teacher when I was doing my master's at Escape Studios that optimization really doesn't exist unless you're in a production. So teaching optimization is something that is very hard to do because optimization needs a target hardware, right? So when you're asking how much poly count does a game ready mesh has, like nowadays, it's like that depends. Are you optimizing for the Switch? Are you optimizing for a PC exclusive game? Are you doing an isometric ARPG, or are you doing a first person shooter? It's all up to like the design, right, of the game. So in this case, I just want to have clean subdividable polygons so I can keep sculpting, right? So I'm gonna go over like that. Let me just do this. This one is wonky, and I think it's because the curve is not perfect. Doesn't matter. I can just do that, and then we can adjust that later. So I can just go like this, again, like this, and then adjust that later. I know this is going to be flat anyway. So again, just drawing out your polygons. And then you already know where I'm going. I'm gonna mirror and weld, and that's it. And now you have an enclosed holes, and you have a sculptable mesh, right? And here's something. Whoops. There we go. This is still obviously not finished, so I'm gonna finish it. Now I'm gonna make this piece go like that. Like that. Yeah, that curve is smooth. I smooth it out for some reason. So I'm gonna just do this and then do that, and then I'm gonna adjust it later. And just do this, do this, do this, do this, and then again, going over like so, and then going over like so, and then going over like so. Whoops. Like that. Whoops, a daisy. I don't want to finish it yet. I know there's a little curve over there. Right. So, but it's good enough, right? It's just that this one actually snaps. This tool snaps to the surface, right? So here's another thing. You're like, okay, now I want to have this as actual geometry. So if I tap Alt, and it's going to give me thickness. I don't want thickness. So I want to go down and make the draw size like to 1. And then actually I want to get rid of those extra curves. So now this is what I'm getting. And now if I tap on the model, I'm getting that model, that edge loop or poly loop around the model, right? This is what I'm getting. So I want to split this, and I'm going to go to Subtool, and then Split, and the Split Hidden. And now I have that blade around the sculpt, right? Which now I can project, by the way. But the cool thing about this is that it's still very low poly, and you're like, okay, but how do I fill that model with sculptable geometry? And you're like, okay, first instinct would be, let's go and close holes, right? So, Retopo on the iPad. Yep, Retopo on the iPad. Dude, it's the same as ZBrush on desktop. It's literally the same tools. Like, it's been there since forever. On the desktop, I do all my retopology in ZBrush, and then lay out the UVs using UV Master, and then just shoot it to another application where I can pack the UVs, assign material IDs. If it's a trim sheet, it's a trim sheet, and that's it, right? So, and then obviously you want to go over here, and now you want to go to Geometry, and modify Topology, and delete Hidden. So now I have the clean mesh, right? And if I start going with dynamic and then creasing, I can crease by angle. So I'm going to crease by 45 degrees. And I want the crease level to be a little higher, something like that. And I don't want any thickness. Okay, that's cool. But if you just go to Geometry, modify Topology, and close holes, it's going to give you this mess, right? So first and foremost, I want to make sure that this is absolutely flat. So I'm going to mask this over and go to my gizmo and then go like this, flatten, move the gizmo just a little bit, and then mirror and weld. Actually in the Z, whoops, I want to turn on symmetry with local symmetry. Actually, I want a local symmetry with dynamic, so it's going to look at the gizmo. And then mirror and weld. There you go. So, yeah. Agreed. Yeah. So, regarding retopology and ZBrush, man, if you look at every single environment that I've done, game-ready environment, everything that you see was retopoed in ZBrush. Everything. Like, literally everything. I don't do my retopo anywhere else nowadays. I used to. I used to do it in Maya. Not anymore, though. It's just too time consuming compared to this. So yeah, so let me uncrease this real quick. Let me just go over here. I'm gonna uncrease this. Where's the, oh Jesus, let's go. Uncrease all. I don't need those creases. Why is it still creasing? Why is this not working? Oh my god. It's not working. Let me go to my tool palette actually. Go to geometry, crease, uncrease all. There we go. Okay. So now that I have this, if I close holes, you're going to get that mess that I just showed you, which is, it's fine if it's just, you know, to close a specific hole, but it's triangles, and you don't want triangles to sculpt, right? You want it to be quads. So here's the thing. You can keep retopoing, but I'm going to show you another technique that's even older, man. And people have been using it since the Lord of the Rings, okay? I can guarantee you they used it in Lord of the Rings. So, this is Z-sphere retopology, right? Which is pretty old school. It's like older than me, almost at this point. So, what you want to do is you want to add a Z-sphere over here. And first of all, I'm going to clone this subtool, right? So I'm going to clone it. Let's go over here. Where's clone? There's a clone. There's no clone. Oh, no. Is there no clone? Okay, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to another subtool and make Polymesh 3D. And I'm just going to insert that mesh, this mesh. So this is its own separate tool, right? And now here, I want to insert a Z-sphere. So I have my Z-sphere that's sitting right over there, and I can move it. Let's go to the ghosting mode. I can move it over here and then scale it. And then there you go. And now what I want to do, and this is something that you can start by drawing, like you can go down here under, where is it? Topology, where's topology? Is it not here? I was under the impression it was here. This sketch. Edit sketch. It's not here. Well, maybe it wasn't added. But yeah, you could use Z-sphere Retopology and just clean that up, basically. Clean the middle of that blade mesh. This is weird. I thought it was here. I saw it here. It's not here. Let me go to surface. Has to be. There isn't even edit topology, which is crazy to think about. Sketch, optimize, reset by. No, it's not there. So I can make adaptive skin, whatever, but I can't really edit. It's fine. Okay, doesn't matter. I'm gonna send it over to the desktop anyway to do the UVs. So my UV master. So yeah, I can go, because on the desktop, and you can see it over here. If you want to see it on desktop, let's go and switch it over to the desktop. So on the desktop, you can see if you have a Z-sphere, let's say I want to retopo this, right? Let me just delete those faces. So I'm going to delete hidden, and I can go over here, insert a Z-sphere, and it should be, let's turn this on, and it should be down here under topology. There it is, topology. And you can edit the topology, and now you can start drawing your mesh, right? This is what should be there, and I think I saw it there, but I have to check. Maybe it wasn't added, and I was under the impression it was. Which is very strange indeed. Let's see. Yeah, it isn't there. It is not there yet. So, yeah. Let's say edit sketch. Yeah, this is Z-sketch. It's not the same thing. Coolio. Doesn't matter. Preview adaptive skin. No, it's not there. It's okay though. Turning off, going back. So deleting this and going to my blade. And now I can actually close holes. Let me go and close holes. Geometry. So far from Mike when. Okay, so when I was looking at here, it's too far, right? Yeah. So send to PC and return. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to avoid this in the middle of the stream because I want actually to because I don't know if it's not going to work with streaming while I'm streaming. Let's see. So I'm going to move this point just to match a little bit better my reference, like that, like that, like that, and like that. Turning off. What? Ah, okay, this is masked. So I'm gonna move these points over there, turn off the mask, and then going in like that, just to move those points perpendicularly to, yeah, there you go, that one. Is it that one? Yeah, it's that one. It's this one. So what you can do is actually, there's another brush called a slide brush. and just slide that polygon over there. There you go. Done. And, or you could just mask lasso and just mask this, and then use your clip curve brush. Boom. There you go. Oh, I don't want this to be... I don't want this brush to have any poly grouping. Not at the moment. So there you go. So I want this to be like that. And now it is perfecto. So now if I close these holes, okay, let's go and close holes. It's gonna give me that mess in a sense. And now I can use my gizmo actually to flatten that out. With the gizmo, symmetry is on, turn off local symmetry, control shift tap, control tap actually. Control tap that. And now it's masking everything else except for that. And I want to start flattening, whoa, with local symmetry on, and just flatten the surface entirely, right? Like that. And now I want to turn off polyframe. And if I hide the sketch, you have this now, which means I can just go dynamic. Why is my custom menu not working for some reason? It's weird. Is it not working? Let's see. Okay. So now I want to crease by PG, which is polygroup, right? Now it's creased like that. And I want to crease by angle as well. So I'm going to crease by 45 degrees to something like that. Right? And now we have the creases that we want. And here's the cool thing. You'll be like, oh, but if I had Z model or whatever, yes. But let's say I want to crease those two little polygons over there. I can just go over here and mask that point. Actually mask these two. And reverse that. And then I have this little thing called crease unmasked. And there you go. It's creased. So just unmask that portion. Now if I turn on dynamic, that part is creased. Whoops. Double tap. You can see oh, okay. You can see the iPad. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot to switch back. PC right now. Yeah, okay. So yeah, my bad. I clicked, it didn't switch. So let me just do that again real quick. So going back. Basically I just closed those. Where did I leave it? I left it at the close holes, right? So again, close holes. Gonna go back. Close holes. So going to geometry. Modify topology. And close holes, right? And then going over here, control tap. So it's masking everything but that part of the mesh, that polygroup. And with local symmetry on, I'm gonna actually just do this and just flatten those polygons out like that. So I'm making sure that's flat, okay? And now that I have this, if I turn on dynamic, it's going to give me this mess. I can crease by PG, which is polygroup. So going again to geometry, under crease, crease PG. Oh, whoops, crease PG. So now every division between polygroups is going to get creased. And I'm going to crease by angle. In this case, 45 degrees, crease. Everything that's 45 degrees or more, it's going to get creased. So, and now you're like, okay, but there's a couple of creases there missing. There's a crease there missing from the sketch, and you can see that over here. See that? And here's a little feature that was added a long time ago, actually, by this point. So mask that portion. And whoops, mask, and then reverse the mask. and now go to your creasing, and there's a crease unmasked button. And if you click that, there, it's creased. You don't need ZModeler for creasing, right? And listen, people have been using ZBrush for hard surface long before ZModeler, even though ZModeler is at least my tool of choice for low polygon workflows. So yeah, so this is also, again, I love this feature. This feature has been a godsend. So again, crease unmasked, there you go. Those polygons are creased now. So now we have the same reference as that. So let's take a look at how would I, for example, let's look at this one, which is the sketched one, just to make sure that we have proper, let's say, detail on there. This is the thing I'm going to show you is how to do an alpha that's going to be tileable on the surface noise, right? So if I go over to my surface palette, let's turn off the polyframe just to see. Click on noise. A little window is going to pop up. That's new, right? It's basically your surface noise tab or sub palette on ZBrush for desktop. But in this case, we have this neat little window, and we have little tabs over here. One controls the curve, the other is the color, and there's the alpha and the noise. So what I want to do is I want to use an alpha. So if I go to alpha and select an image, I can go take photos, go on my iPad. I can actually take a photo of something here. I don't know what I would take a photo of, but whatever. So I can go on my iPad and then go to this pattern, for example. And now in the noise, I can up the scale a little bit, or actually lower the scale. Why is it not? Oh, is this masked? Yeah, I think this is masked. There you go. Okay. Don't have it masked, guys. So now that I have it here, I can go over, and I don't want any noise, so I'm gonna mix that basic noise, bring that to 0. So now I'm only using my alpha, right? And I can change the scale of that alpha. I can go here and say 0.5. And the cool thing about this is that now I can actually mask a section. So let me just turn off this noise for now. It's stored it, by the way, and you can save noises and all of that. So I'm gonna do some masking, some crazy mask stuff. So I can mask by this, like with a lasso, right? And then just sharpen that, then invert, and then go to my noise, turn on the noise. I can hide my mask so I don't see the mask, I just see what I'm doing. Right? Turn off the mask, and this is what it's gonna happen. So on my noise also, if you go to your surface noise, you can actually, in the color settings, do color blends. So you can see there's some color blending to the white, or in this case to black, which is transparent. So you don't want that. So I want to do this by 0, which means there's no color blending in this case, right? Could do that. You could just go like this to the little bluish tone, and then just blend a little bit of that color, or the other way around. You know, let's say I want this flipped, and I'm gonna do that. It's not gonna apply to the outside of the model, but I want this to be at 0, right? I don't want any color blend. So I can do this, and now I have that detail over there, and I can make it a little stronger. And this alpha scale now can be adjusted like that. And now we have this, right? I don't want this. What I want to do is actually go to my mask pen brush. This is a feature that has been there, well, from the start, to be honest. So it's basically mask region. So let me do with a very small brush size. Let me just draw this. Actually, I want to use lazy mouse for this. So I'm gonna go to my brush palette, my settings, and I'm gonna turn on, not the brush, I'm sorry, strokes, and I'm gonna go to lazy mouse, turn on lazy mouse with the fair radius like that, right? So now I'm gonna do this and actually start drawing my shape like that. Let's say I want something like this. Like that, right? So now what I can do is I can boost the mask. So I'm going to go to masking. Let's boost this mask a little bit. Boost that mask. And now I sharpen that mask, right? So what do I want to do? I want to fill in that mask. Actually, I can make some slight adjustments over there. But I don't want to paint it by hand. I don't want to go over and start, oh my God, I need to paint this. Feels like I'm in primary school again, just filling in the drawings. I want to go over to my masking, scroll down to mask by region, and do auto region. That's it. It's going to analyze this region. If you have two of them, which we could do that. Let's do that. So let's say I have two regions. So I'm going to do another design here. I'm going to do like that. And then a flat shape over there. Then I want something like this. And then like this, for example. And then let's then just boost this mask again. Actually, let me do this before I boosted the mask. So that I boost them both at the same time, like that. So I want to do this kind of like that. And then do this curve over here, doing that. And then just lazy mouse snap with shift key. And let's go like that, right? So now I want to go again, mask palette. I want to boost that mask, boost mask, and I want to sharpen that mask. And maybe I can delete that part again because it annoys me. So there you go. And now I can still go over here and do auto region, and it will detect. But if for some reason it doesn't, what you can do is you can analyze region and then fill region, but you have to type in. So analyze region, and then just do a little dot over there. And if you only want to fill that one, for example, fill region. And now that one is absolutely still like a strap around it, but the top one is completely full, right? In this case, I want to do both, so I'm going to do auto region and then flip this. And now I want to turn on my surface noise. So now I have something like this, right? Coolio. So if I apply this now, right? I can actually, what I can do actually before surface noise, if you want to save a mask, a lot of people ask me about this. So if you want to save a mask, here's a cool thing. Apply polypaint. Polypaint saves you at the end of the day, because if you want, you can go over here and turn on polypaint. And now you want to do, let's just do actually black and white, right? So I'm going to actually reverse this, fill object, and then reverse it. Actually, reverse the mask. And is this on? Yeah, it's already done. Okay. So now it's like, okay, but now you don't have your mask, but you can go to mask and go to mask by color. And now mask by intensity. And now I have my mask again. You can't really tell because it's black and white, but I have a mask. Whoops. Ah, it's black. Okay, I need to switch this to white. Turn on the color. Mask by intensity. And there you go. There's your mask. So use polypaint whenever you can. Just apply polypaint to your masks and use that to remask it as you need it. So what's the minimal requirement for a tablet to run it comfortably? So ZBrush for iPad is supported on iPads that are there are iPads from 2018 that are supported. Obviously, if you want to have better performance, you would want at least an M chip, like the new ones with the Pro. But it doesn't need to be the latest iPad Pro. The iPad Pro M4, which is the one I'm using right now, has the advantage that you can use the Apple Pencil Pro, and it's obviously faster, the M4. It's 16 gigs of RAM, this one. 12 or 16, I don't remember. I think it's one of those. And the more RAM you have, the better, the more poly count you can take, and the better performance. But keep in mind that the iPad is using virtual memory, all right? So the space you have left in your hard drive is going to dictate the performance of your RAM and the performance of your poly count, right? So the more disk space you get on your iPad, the better as well, because your memory will perform better, right? So if you have like a 8 gig iPad RAM, but then you're like, I'm split between getting 256 and getting like an Apple Pencil Pro instead of getting like the Apple Pencil or whatever, I would say if you want to go like crazy high poly counts, then get more disk space for sure. Just get the biggest disk space you can get, and you know, and you'll be fine. So yeah. So now that I have this mask, let's go over how to apply that surface noise. So let me go to surface, turn on surface, and now I can apply this. So let me apply this to mesh. I want to subdivide this. That's why I wanted to retain that poly paint, so I know, so I can remask this. So I'm going to divide this once, actually, divide it once. It's dynameshed, by the way, so I'm not going to re-dynamesh, otherwise it's going to lose the poly paint. Actually, let's do that. Let's do that. You're like, okay, but if I re-dynamesh this, let me re-dynamesh this, even if it is the higher polygon count, it's going to lose the poly paint, right? Oh, actually it didn't. It reprojected. That makes sense. It's projecting. So, let me see. Oh, actually it's lower. Why is it lower? It didn't lose the poly paint. 8 million. Okay, didn't lose the poly paint. That's cool. Didn't know that would happen. It's reprojecting the color, basically. So what I want to do is I want to go over and mirror and weld, just for the sake of having both sides equal. So mirror and weld. Now I have poly paint on both sides. And I want this to be... to apply this, right? So I'm going to remask this. I was going to do the projection with undo history, but, you know, whatever. ZBrush just saved me some time. So again, now I have this mask, going to surface, surface noise, and apply to mesh. It's like, I feel like this is too... Yeah, it's too thin. Might be the model is too big. So let me just go to strength relative to scale and just go like that. Go a little crazy. Apply to mesh. Actually, let me do this. Let me go crazy, really crazy on this. Okay, apply to mesh. There we go. So what I want to do also is I want to go to curve, and I want to make sure that this is absolutely in the middle. So I get less detail, because I don't want that to be as clean as it is at the moment. Something like that. Actually, I think this could be it. Something like this, right? Just mix basic noise, I don't want that. And now apply. There you go. Now it's going up though. Let me try reversing that. Doing the opposite. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not the design I wanted, but it's fine. It should be poking out, but having that edge retained. Let me see. So let's go to curve, flip this, and now push it out, push it in. Let's try to push it in. Yeah, there's still gonna be some of this outside. can't remember what I did there. It's going in, but it's for some reason not. Okay, here's what I can do. I can just turn off this noise. And now since I have this masked, go to my gizmo, scale it down a little bit. Like that. And now apply that noise. And I can actually blur the mask and sharpen it. And actually, let me shrink that mask. Going over with my mask adjust. I want to turn off this noise for now. Mask adjust, and I'm going to blur it, and I'm going to offset with the focal shift. And then apply. Oh, it's growing. Wait, I wanted this to go to the left. And then sharpen this up. Like that. There we go. And now I want to apply that noise. Perfect. And let's go to the noise. Let's go back to the strength. The mesh must be super big. So there you go. So now I have this, right? And here's the cool thing. If you have your mesh, your game ready, your subdividable mesh, let's say, you just divide it basically and project that detail. Can you end the stencil on a path following curve? Yeah, you can basically, here's another thing. So let's use this as a template, right? So I have that alpha. That alpha is stored, right? Which means that I can go with my standard brush. I can actually do it with a stitch brush, but let's use the standard brush and I can pick that alpha. Now I can go to the settings and there's this little thing here. So what this is doing is basically doing this, right? It's just stroking that alpha along whatever. It's repeating. It's obviously repeating too much and it's not tiling. So what I want to do is I want to go to my stroke settings, going to modifiers and tap this roll button. And now what it's going to do is this. Along whatever path you want. So let me see if I make this bigger so you guys can see. It's doing this. It's tiling along as I sculpt. Yeah. So you can also use this to with a curve brush, an actual curve brush, but that's a different topic. But yeah. So let's do, for example, let's check this out. Okay, so I'm gonna do layer, and I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna turn on lazy mouse. So let's go to lazy mouse. Yeah, there you go, it's already on. And I wanna turn on symmetry, and I wanna do this, but on the other side. So I wanna do something like this with Alt and Shift. Click Shift, whoops, and go like this, Alt and Shift. Let's just keep doing a layer with a layer brush, something like that. There we go. I could actually make this even stronger and doing like this. Turning it off. Then let's try to bend that. There we go. Right. So obviously there's some issues here because the layer brush is not built to do this, but we can obviously just smooth that and then just flatten it manually, sculpting, right? And then as you do this, I can use that roll to go around. If I had some UVs on this model, I could use more UV and just tile in that along that surface, right? So if I want to do that now, I go to my standard brush. Actually, let me use the stitch brush. I'm going to use the stitch brush because the stitch brush is already made for that. You could just use the stitch basic and then go to your stroke settings and you can see and modifiers, the roll is on and then roll distance is at 1. So all you need to do is actually bring in your alpha and this is what it's going to do. Just make this bigger. This is what it's going to do. That's your stitch brush. So I want to do this like basically like that, and I want this to be directional. Maybe I want smooth stronger, but like that. So I want this to be as flat as possible. Maybe I can even use the flat brush, the planar brush, sorry. I always get those two confused. So I, you know, make this flat like that and like that. There we go. Right. So again, stitch brush, stitch basic, and then use that alpha. And now you can do this. Right? And you have a pattern going around the mesh. Obviously this is too small for this pattern, but you can make it bigger and then do this. Now you have a little pattern over there, right? So this is what I would do for this blade, okay? So yeah, so this is the gist of the process for either the blade, the straps, the wooden part of the model. And then obviously you can just, let's try that. I promised you guys right before the end of the stream, I would go and try out GoZ while streaming. So if this doesn't work, I'm sorry. I'll be back and then just say goodbye. Okay? But let's try it, because I'm streaming over the Wi-Fi, so it's usually not optimal if you're doing that. So I want to bring this over, all right, to the desktop, right? So let me just go over here, and then I want to click this little button, the export button, and I'm going to click Go Z. It's going to show up my machine right there, my desktop machine. And the moment I click here, you're going to see a message pop out in my desktop and saying, hey, you want to receive this file? And I'm going to say, okay. And then it's going to ask me to save. No, it didn't. Wow. Okay. I must have quick saved already. So, and then now we can see this over there on the top. Whoops. That's showing me, you know, the little bar. It's the same bar as this one. This bar over here, right? On where the computer is, right? So that bar, when it's finished, hopefully, and I hope I'm not lagging a lot because of this, it's gonna ship everything, and I'm talking the project file. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer, because it's gonna try to shoot everything, every single tool, including the other axes that I've built. So it's like 3 models all at once. Let's see if it actually works over the Wi-Fi. And for you to use this, all you need to do is be on the same Wi-Fi, basically. Just have your iPad connected to that Wi-Fi, have your desktop or your laptop connected to that same Wi-Fi. Again, if you have Ethernet connected with your computer and on your desktop, it's not going to work. It needs to be on the Wi-Fi, same Wi-Fi, right? So you can have both, right? But not just Ethernet and then, you know, the Wi-Fi on the iPad. So now, yeah, just shoot it over. Oh, there you go. Project the same. Oh, I don't need to save this. Doesn't matter. So now I have the exact model. At least I think I do. It's loading. There you go. That's the exact model over there, right? So what I can do, whoops, I'm on the magnifying glass. What I can do is I can go over here, and let's say I want to do my UVs, or actually I want to fill this in. So what I wanted to show you a few moments ago was something like this, right? I didn't have anything. I had this, right? And I wanted to fill this in. And I wanted to do it manually. So I want to do it with this in mind, because now I have the surface noise, right? So what I want to do, let me just push this. Whoops. Let me just scale this a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So what I want to do is I want to use Z-spheres. So in this case, I want to go, I could use Z-modeler as well. That's fine. I can show you both, actually. So what you want to do is you want to go over to, basically, I want to clone this subtool. Where's clone? Oh, I forget where clone is. Oh, there it is. clone. So now I have that, right? And here, right underneath this, I'm going to insert or append a Z-sphere. Right? No lag. That's great. Okay, cool. There was no lag. So Z-sphere, again, with the transparent, I'm going to move this over to this side, scale it down, and now I'm going to use this with a topology over here. Not Z-sketch, sorry, topology, and I can edit topology, or I can select another mesh to keep going. So I'm going to select that mesh that I just made, and now I have this as Z-sphere topology. And now I can click edit topology, and I can just keep adding. I can just do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And if you want to preview this, press A to preview your adaptive skin. Again, keep in mind, we don't want any Dynamesh resolution and you want density at 1. So now you're just previewing the result of your mesh by pressing A. Not Canadian A. I mean A. The letter A. So there you go. Whoops. Pressing this, going over here, going over here. I still prefer the topology brush, to be honest, but this is a little more precise. It is very akin to, if you guys, any of you Maya users, it's very akin to when you on quad draw, when you click and you just spawn points and then shift click. It's kind of like that, right? So, and then obviously you still have ZModeler. ZModeler retopology is basically quad draw. It's basically quad draw. It snaps to the surface and you're just doing extrudes over an entire edge loop. So it's literally the same thing. So let me just go over like to this side, go over here, and then I want to go, whoops, I want to click there, click there, click there, and just go like that. And then you can move this, it's snapping, right? And then I can go like this, and like this, like this, like this, and like this. And you can see the point, just going around that mesh, making sure that you have the same edge flow, right? So that's important. If you go over here, not necessarily important like for, it's not gonna deform or anything, but for shading purposes, for sure. Like you wanna make sure your edges are tight and clean when you're doing hard surface. Because a lot of, like, if you're doing a game ready model, your model is gonna, like the look, the final crispiness of your model is gonna depend entirely on your normals, on your edge normals. So your smoothing groups. So yeah, there you go. So now I wanna think about this one. I wanna make this one like going like this, like this, like this. I can make this like squarish. I can actually make this triangle. No, I don't want triangles. I want to sculpt it. So I can do this, I can do that, and I want to move this to the surface. And there we go. So actually I want to space these out a little bit, just to make sure that these follow. So you can see how much more precise I can be with this rather than the topology brush, but obviously it's more time consuming. So I can do that, that, and then that. And then over here, I can follow this edge flow. And then just go like that, and like that, and like that, like that. Whoops. Actually, Alt to delete that one. And I want to make sure this is kind of like this, right? It's not perfect by any means, but it is just to sculpt. So as long as these quads are fairly even, which they're kind of not, but whatever, it's just for the sake of demonstration. So I'm gonna make this quad here, and then I'm gonna make this go over there. Actually, no, this one should go over there, and then this one should go over there, and then this one should go over there, and then you get this. So you don't want the other poly loop around to have any triangles, or else it's gonna pinch, right? When you smooth it out. So you need to keep that edge flow going. Not that it's super important for our case in our scenario here, but like you could just triangulate it there. Nobody would notice because that's gonna be flat anyway. So yeah, and now at the end, when you finished, actually there's an end gone there. Didn't really notice that. Let me just do this and then actually do that, and there's a quad over there. There you go. Now if I press, there's another end gone, it's gonna triangulate. Yeah, it automatically triangulates sometimes for you. So I think that is it. There you go. Yeah, it's gonna triangulate that. And now you have your mesh, right? So again, keep going around the mesh and you have your retopo, and then just mirror and weld, and it's done, right? At the end of it though, let's just imagine this is done, right? For the sake of the stream. And let me just mirror and weld. Actually, let me do something real quick. So I'm gonna make adaptive skin, turn off the preview, and I can actually delete this topo. And now I'm gonna insert that geometry over here, which is this one, right? And now I'm gonna use my ZModeler Retopology. So ZT, or in the lightbox, if you don't have it loaded, go to the lightbox under brush. There's a ZModeler variant brush over here that's called ZModeler Topology. This is basically the same brush. It's ZModeler but tweaked. So my point actions are move points, and you can see it's snapping to that surface. See that? Snapping to the surface, kind of like quad draw. It's exactly like quad draw, right? And so that, and then when you're moving, when you're going to an edge, for example, it says extrude. So if I can just drag this over, and if I press Alt, tap Alt, it's gonna go through the entire edge loop partial, and it's gonna try to weld. So if I move this point, you can see it welded together. So I move that, it's gonna weld there, right? So this is basically it. This is ZModeler Retopology. There's nothing crazy special about this. It's just, you know, it's basically a quad draw, but in ZBrush. There you go. So there you go. Have ZModeler Retopology, right? For any of you who are doubting, oh my God, Retopology in ZBrush, it's the same. It works the same way as any other application, basically. Unless you're talking about like procedural Retopology, which is every kind of software has its own. But when it comes to like handmade Retopology, it's like the same thing. You generate points and then you fill them in with polygons, right? Can you please have the group ZRemesh in order to remesh all the contents within a folder? Okay, so you're talking about polygroups, ZRemesh, or ZRemesh anything within a folder? Like, let's say you have this model. Let's just say this, okay? You have this, and then you duplicate this, and you duplicate it again, and let's make a folder like this, right? And then put it here. So you have this folder, right? You go over here, and you want ZRemesher over there. Is that what you were saying? So you can't really, but what you can do is actually merge two separate pieces. Where is it? You can actually merge two separate tools. Let's say I have this like that. I want to merge down. Okay. So now I have, like, let's say 2 objects. I can even go in and click auto groups. So now I have the ability to control tap and just move them around separately, right? Let's say, whoa, crazy stuff that's happening over there. So let's say I have these 2 models. Actually, let's make something really cool. Let's just rotate it like that. Let's make like a X kind of thing, and then go to the middle, and then let's just mirror and weld with dynamic symmetry on. So it's gonna mirror and weld based on that axis. So I'm gonna mirror and weld on the X. Oh, wow, that's a cool design. Oh, that's cool. I actually like this one. So, yeah, but it's mirror and welding the whole thing. So, let me just try and mirror and weld over there. Just for the sake of, you know, I want a pretty design. Let's say I want to do this. Oh, come on. Why is it not? Oh, yeah, it's in the gizmo thing. Sorry. It's late in Germany. So let me just go on the z-axis, mirror and weld, positive to negative, I think. Yeah, there you go. So now we have this cool little piece over here that we can, I don't know, it's just whatever. So I have this, right? You don't need to remesh piece by piece. You can go over to your gizmo. There's a little deformer called remesh by Dynamesh, remesh by Union, remesh by ZRemesher. And you can remesh multiple objects at the same time. And here's a cool thing. People tell me, oh, but ZRemesher is not that precise with the poly count. Guess what? I want 10,000 polygons. So I'm going to go poly count 10,000. I don't know. 10,039. Is it gonna crash? Is it now that's it's gonna lag and crash? To be fair, it's 16 million polygons that it's trying to Z-remesh without any polygroups to aid it. So, any day now. Is my stream lagging? Can you guys hear me? Didn't work. Let me just remesh this first. Whoops. Whoops-a daisy. Let me move this back. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna remesh by Dynamesh first. So I just reduce it a little bit. And by the way, Dynamesh also has a poly count. So if I have, like, let's say 5,000, it's gonna give me 5,000 polygons, like exactly 5,000. So it's gonna Dynamesh, close holes. There you go. See that? See that? That's 4,500 actually. It's not that super precise, but I can go over here and say 5,200. It's gonna go back to the original mesh and re-Dynamesh from the original mesh. So it's basically caching that mesh in disk and then going, it's like decimation master. It's like pre-processing first and then going through the entire thing. Right, so let's say I have these two models, right? And I want them to, let me just do something real quick. Let me try this. Go over here. And now I want to remesh by Dynamesh. And one of these cones has to be reach project, but there's no groups with Dynamesh. Let's see. Let's test it out. Let's see if it works. Sometimes, you know, developers go crazy and they surprise us. So let's see. So if I Dynamesh here, is it going to take into account the settings? It did, I think. Yeah. So if you have groups on your Dynamesh palette, your remesh by Dynamesh is gonna work with the groups on, basically. So I have all the settings and you have precision over the poly count. So let's say, okay, let's go up a little bit. Let's go like, I don't know, 81,000. Just so it retains a little bit of that detail. So you can see where I'm going with this. Right, there you go. And you can reproject. I want yes, so I want to reproject that detail. There you go. And now read Dynamesh, like that. And it's gonna Dynamesh and reproject. It's still not gonna retain all of the detail, but you know, it's gonna do its best. It's still, you know, Dynamesh. So there you go. Actually retain pretty much a lot of detail. So 188,000 points. And if I go remesh by ZRemesher, I can also just ZRemesh 2 objects over here. And if you want them to fuse together, you do remesh by union first, and then do remesh by ZRemesher, and then you have groups on, right, with ZRemesher. So now you can see I can go over here on my masking, auto groups, and then just push this back, and they're still separate pieces. And I have 2 pieces being ZRemeshed at the same time. I could have multiple. I could go like crazy, just, you know, do this, duplicate this over, rotate it around again. I don't know, just do crazy blade stuff. I don't know why you would use this. Looks like a weapon from Naruto or something. So yeah, there you go. So let's do crazy blade stuff thing. And now let's auto group this and ZRemesh, remesh by ZRemesher. Let's do 100,000. You can do symmetry with ZRemesher. It still works. There you go. Remeshing 4 pieces, and then you can auto group, and then just split by groups, and you have your subtools again. So multiple subtools, merge them together, remesh by ZRemesher, auto groups, split by groups, and you have your 4 subtools all ZRemeshed, right? And here's the thing. This is something I never tried, by the way, but maybe apply to all subtools would work, because technically apply last action to all subtools works with any button, not slider. Hey, not slider, button. So any button that has, yeah, it's an onion chopper. You're right. It's an onion chopper. Oh my God, it is. I need one of those though. So any button that is in the tool palette will work with apply last action to all subtools. So I don't know if I'm gonna risk this, but I mean, we could try. Let's try it with, let me just clone this. I'm gonna clone this, and let's try it with this. So I'm gonna do duplicate, 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 and I'm gonna change this shape a little bit, or maybe I'm gonna do like this, and then do this, and then do this. And let me go to move infinite depth, and I'm gonna do some crazy stuff. I don't know. Let me just go like that, and then just move this. Actually, I don't want dynamic. Turn off dynamic. Come on, turn off dynamic. There you go. And then just move stuff around so they're a little different. Because what is life without some diversity, right? So there you go. There you go. So they're all a little different. And now what we can do is we can go over here and let's see. Let's try it. Let's try it. We're doing it this live. So let me go over to ZRemesher, and I have some settings over here. Let's do same. Let's do keep groups, and let's smooth the groups. Actually, let's smooth them out a lot. So let's click ZRemesher, see what it does. Okay. Okay, seems to work. Let's do half, just in case, just to see difference. There you go. And now let's try to apply this to it. Let's break ZBrush. Let's see if it breaks. It won't. I have faith. Would you like to repeat the same action to all other visible subtools? Okay. And it is doing it. I don't know if it'll work, but it is doing it. Oh, there you go. It is doing it. It's working. Yeah, it worked. So yeah, you can ZRemesh all of your subtools at once with one click. There you go. It worked. So ZRemesh with this set of settings, and then go up to the top, apply last action to all subtools. Where is it? Oh, Jesus. Oh, where is it? There it is. Apply last action to all subtools, and it will ZRemesh everything. You can see here. It ZRemeshed everything. See that? That is pretty cool, actually. I never tried that. I had a feeling it worked, because it works with every other button on the tool palette. But you can't really say until you try it, right? Alrighty then. So, this was just an overview of the process, overall process. We didn't go too far, to be honest. I wanted to go a little bit further, but you guys had a lot of questions, and I really appreciate that. I really like answering questions because as you've noticed, Jesus, oh my God, my brain's going AWire. So as you've noticed, I yap a lot. So I never shut the fuck up. So yeah. So I haven't even drank water. I barely drink any water. I'm just yapping nonstop. So do you guys have any other questions that pop into your minds like at the last second? I know what you're gonna ask. Where's the modeler for ZBrush for iPad? I know. I feel you. Is it efficient to zero mesh for UVs instead of decimation? So decimation allows you to keep your UVs, but if you want to unwrap UVs cleanly, I would advise to have quads. Because with quads, any software knows the direction of the edge flow. If you have a particular edge flow you want to retain, and polygroups as well, right? So last little thing. So let's say I want to have some UVs on this. So let's go back. Actually, let me do this on the actual blade. There we go. So there's the blade. So for UVs, let me just delete hidden. Okay, so I have this, right? 8 million polygons. What I want to do, usually what I do, is I want to have a polygroup on each side. For a blade, I mean, because a blade is, you know, you're never going to see both sides at the same time. Unless you're facing a mirror or something, and that's like, you know, why would you face a mirror with a blade like that? But whatever. So what you want to do is you want to go and slice this up. So I'm going to go in and slice this over here on this side. Just because when I mirror this, like that, right? And now I want to mirror, right? So I want to mirror and weld the Z-axis. And now I want to select those two polygroups. And actually, I want to auto group that. So I have that little gap. That was the reason I have that little gap. So let me turn on polyframe, but without the line on. And now I want to expand this. I just expand this real quick. Actually, I could just Z-remesh this right now at the moment. I just Z-remesh this. That's what I do. First of all, I want to tag and undo history over there, right? This is how I do all of my like rocks and organic like environmental assets for like Unreal and whatever. I just do this, and then this is optimal for nanite. This workflow, by the way, if you're using any type of dynamic tessellation, this is what it's gonna. This is ideal. This is how they did the Fortnite, the revamping to Unreal Engine 5 with nanite. So basically, you have this with 3 polygroups. I don't know if you can see that well. Let me change that polygroup color. And now I want to go to Z-remesher, and I want to turn on keep groups, and I don't want to smooth a lot, so I want to 0.1 maybe. And no adaptive size down to 0, or turn it off. And then let's just Z-remesh with same first, and then let's half it all the time. How many tries is it optimal? Yeah, I just answered that. Basically, when you're talking about optimization, there's no one number. It depends on the project, and it depends on the hardware you're developing for. So if you're developing for like Switch, that's one thing. If you're developing for like a PC, first-person shooter, is it isometric? Is it top-down? Is it third-person? Is it how many triangles are you gonna have? Depends a lot on what the game is doing under the hood. Let's say your game is completely dependent on like complex, crazy particles or fluids. You might want to chop the polygon count by half or something, because this fluids and the simulations are going to take precedent over everything else, right? So it really depends on the project. For most AAA titles on PS5, was it PS4? It was PS4. I think character for Horizon was around 200,000. The main character, Aloy, is it Eloy. I think it was her name, Eloy. Yeah, so she was like 200,000 or something. But most of that was the hair cards. Hair cards, those hair cards particularly, were very, very dense and complex to render. But yeah, like, and we're talking like the main character, and we're talking LOD number 0, the one you see in cinematics up close and whatever, not the one you see in gameplay when your camera is like on like third person. That is probably LOD number 1. LOD 0 is usually the one up close. So yeah, I would say it depends on the project, depends on the situation. Again, I had this teacher that told me basically, when you're talking, the teacher that taught me optimization and technical art, he told me that teaching optimization is tricky. Actually, it's impossible unless you're actually developing something, developing a game or something. Because if you're developing a game, then you are optimizing for a specific target resolution and frames per second. And that's when you optimize. And then you also have what sort of anti-aliasing are you using? Is that gonna, then you have to rework your entire pipeline to build assets for that type of aliasing compressor, let's say, and also your target resolution. So it all depends, right? For example, how many polygons you're gonna have on your LODs, if you're using LODs, and even if you're using nanite, what sort of ratio of tessellation are you gonna have? That all depends on how much resolution you have on screen. Because if you have like this amount of pixels, it's like you can't have more polygons than pixels. Doesn't make sense, right? So let's say you have a rock that's this size and you start to see it very blocky because of LODs. But if you go to look at any polygon that's like very, very faceted because it's an LOD, like LOD 5 or something, take a screenshot, send it to Photoshop, and then just squish it. Squish it to like 1/10 of its size. That's what you're gonna see on screen. And it won't look bad at that scale. You know what I mean? So optimization, even LODs, really depends on your resolution. LODs particularly, absolutely depends on your resolution. That's why going 4K sometimes is very, very hard to optimize for, because you really have to up your game on LODs. Because your LOD number 1, which is the second one, needs to have a lot more polygons than your LOD number 1 at 1K or 2K, right? The more resolution you have, the more polygons you need to have as well. It's not just pixels, and it's not just texture, texel density and all of that. It's everything else, right? So, yeah. Getting rocks from ZBrush to Unreal Assets. Yeah, I do like nanite rocks all the time. And here's the cool workflow. I mean, it's taking forever. So I'm going to cancel this. Sorry. And I'm going to go and try remeshing. Actually, let me remesh. Let me remesh by Dynamesh again. I have already set that. Let me do this differently. Let me do the same thing I did before. Remesh by Dynamesh. Let's do fairly low polygon number. Actually, we could go a little bigger, to be honest. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, there you go. Remesh by Dynamesh. And now I want a single poly group, and I want to do this again. I want to slice this up. And again, mirror and weld, geometry modify topology, mirror and weld. And I want this, for example, and I want this to be auto grouped. So polygroups, auto groups. And now we can even go this way. We don't even need now to do that crazy thing. So now we have 2 polygroups. Oh wow, we don't. We actually don't. So let me just, yeah, do that. And let's just polish it. I think we're better off if we just polish this. So let's now try Z remeshing by same, keep groups, smooth groups, and there you go. It's gonna go way faster now. Nada, meu. So yeah, so now we remesh this, right? I don't want to smooth it anymore. Let's go half. Z remesh again. I want to get this to a very low poly count. without any smoothing happening at the moment. So let me go, yeah, like that. And here's something I could do in between ZRemesher. I want to use my planar brush. Whoops. B-E-L. There you go. Planar brush with symmetry on. And I'm just going to push all of those verts. Because I don't need that. I don't need that detail. It's going to get baked, right? Into your normal maps or whatever, right? So maybe I do need, and I'll just model it after with game ready assets. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Whoops. Smaller brush size. There we go. Going to do that. Going to do that. Going to do that. Going to do that. There we go. And now ZRemesh it by half again. There we go. ZRemesh it by half again. And I can go over here. Whoops, a daisy. Now that I have this, right, I want to have some UVs. So now I want to do the whole like auto group thing. And I want to increase this. So what I want to do ultimately is have one polygroup to get the seam of my UVs, right? So now with this at a very low polygon count, I'm gonna go to Z plugin, go to UV master, click this polygroup button, turn off symmetry. Oh, actually, let's do symmetry. So the shells will be symmetrical. And then I'm gonna unwrap this. And it's done. See how fast that was? There you go. Now I flatten, and there you go. You have two shells. Right? And you can orient this. You can control tap, orient this. So you can have, like, let's say you want to have a particular stroke that goes all the way around or to the top or whatever, like this. And now you can unflatten this. And now what I am going to do is I'm going to project history, because you remember I did an undo history tag over there, pressing the control button. So project history, divide, project history, divide, project history. And here's the cool thing. You were talking about decimation master. Let's say you want to have LODs to this, right? You want to have some LODs to this? Cool. Like 417,000 polygons. Actually, let's divide it again and project history. Keep in mind, this has UVs, right? This means, and this is also a feature that's available on the iPad, is that, there we go. So, this is also a feature that's available on the iPad. You want to go to UV master, UV map, and you want to morph this. By default, this is set to bump, and so you can see what you have here. And you can start, dem standard, and you can just do, like, whoops, that's not working. There we go. Wow, why is it never works with me? Why? Oh, Jesus, I don't know why. Okay. Let's do clay. Let's unmorph this. Bump 0. Let's do bump 100. This is a big model though. That's probably why. Where is my... Ugh, there it is. Okay. No, it's not working. I wonder why. Oh. Maybe it's because I have a undo history tag. No. That is very strange. Very strange indeed. Wow, that is very weird. Okay, but it usually works. For some reason it's not. Maybe it's the subdivisions. I don't know. Okay, it might be the subdivisions. Okay, so you have this. It has UVs. Perfect. And now what you want to do is you want to go to Decimation Master, and you want to keep UVs and pre-process it once. You don't need to pre-process every time you do decimation. You just pre-process once and then decimate. So I'm going to do LOD number 0. That's going to be my nanite, let's say mesh, or my LOD 0. And then, I mean, like I won't need to send the FBX to Maya. Yeah, I don't need to send the FBX to Maya. It's done. I have my UVs done. So I have Z plugin pre-processed, right? So let's say this is, well, basically you export an FBX and then just import it in Unreal. And it has UVs or in Substance. You can texture it in Substance before, and that's how I do all my rocks, like rock meshes and all of that. So I want to duplicate this before. Oh, so let me do a decimation. Let's say my nanite mesh is going to be 250K and decimate current. Done. Right? See how it retained all of that for the shadow shapes and the cast shadows and all that to get that nice juicy, you know, shadowing. That's cool. All right. So this is my LOD or nanite mesh, right? So I'm going to duplicate this and then go back to that one. And now I want the LOD number 1. So I'm going to do, let's go crazy. Let's say 50K. Let's say this is a freaking first-person sword fighting game or whatever, right? So that's it. And now I want to duplicate that again. And I don't need to pre-process. Again, I'm just typing in numbers, 10K, decimate current. And here's the cool thing. Let's go to Morph UV. It still has the same UVs. They're the same UVs. You texture one, you texture all the LODs. Don't need any other shenanigans. You don't need to remake your UVs for every LOD possible and imaginable, like you used to do back in your Unreal Engine 3 days, basically. But so yeah, 5K, same thing. And if you're really looking at it from a distance, so here's what I'm gonna show you how LODs work in games. So we have a set resolution in our document, right? We have this resolution, this 1K. Right, so if I had my 200K model, up close, this is fine, right? If I go and change this to my LOD number 1, which is 50K, decimate current, you can see some faceting over there. Actually, let me try it even like 20K. You can see it looks a little bit off, right? Because we have a set resolution, I'm gonna go and Shift S. And now I'm going to zoom out. Right? So now I'm going to Shift S and I'm going to show you the 200K. Decimate current. See any difference? Silhouette wise, no difference at all. Right? And this is 200K. This is 20K. Right? So Shift S again, and now I'm gonna do it even more. I'm gonna go over here and going like, okay, I want 2K. And you're like, oh, it's very, very noticeable. Maybe because we don't have any texturing, obviously, no normal maps or whatever. Silhouette's still the same, but there are a few spots here and there. Actually did a pretty good job. Let me just do it again. Let's go like 1K decimate current. Yeah, you see it change a little bit, so you're gonna see a little bit of popping, right? But here's the cool thing. Shift S. This LOD is probably only going to be seen at like that distance. So it's not going to be even 1K. It's going to be like 0.5, which is like 500 polygons or something. That's it. And you don't notice it's like the same model. If I go over here, you see it's the same model. Imagine a normal map there with compression, right? Because it's mip mapped. It looks like the same model, but from a distance. And this is like 500 polygons. This is 200,000, right? This is sort of like, it depends on your resolution, right? So if you're running at 4K, 60 frames per second, obviously you're going to notice a lot more of that faceting and that mip mapping and all of that, right? That's why it's so hard to optimize for 4K at 60 frames per second. It's really, really hard because it changes the entire pipeline. It changes the entire workflow for optimization, right? So it's one of the reasons that's hard. It's not just that. It's anti-aliasing and all of that stuff and global illumination and reflections and all that. So yeah, this is how I would do. It still has the UVs, so now you can bake. You would probably bake your highest LOD to your original high poly and substance. And then you have all your LODs done. Ship them, send them to Unreal, and then you can type in custom in the LOD tab in Unreal and just bring your meshes from ZBrush directly, the LOD1, LOD2, LOD3, LOD4, and it's going to compute that all of that, right? So yeah. Coolio, guys. So it's been actually 3 hours. It's crazy. I don't remember the last time I streamed for 3 hours. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much. We're going to carry on these kinds of streams next year for sure. it's gonna be the last stream of the year for me. So yeah, so happy holidays, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you guys tune in next time. I'm gonna keep doing like environment art and stuff in between ZBrush for iPad and ZBrush for desktop, because I don't see them as separate apps anyway. I see them as extensions of one another. ZBrush is ZBrush to me, right? So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun year. I'm super excited for what we have in store for you guys in the development team, right? And you guys are gonna enjoy it. Trust me. And trust me, dude. And in this case, yeah, trust me, dude. That's it. Cool. Muito obrigado mesmo. I need to try this. My UV game with ZBrush pieces will be way more fast. Yeah, we could do a stream for that. Like game art, ZBrush to Substance and Unreal one day for sure. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. For sure. I can show you some cool stuff in ZBrush to Unreal and pipelines like that. That's cool. I was back in the stream. Yeah, well, you're going to have to watch the VOD now. You're going to go through... It's going to be stored on YouTube. It's fine. If you're on Twitch, which you're not, it has a time limit or something. But on YouTube, there's no time limit. It's going to be there. And, okay, guys. So, this was the last stream of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been a crazy, crazy year with a lot of releases. And just stay tuned. Next year is going to be awesome. Happy holidays, everyone. And I'll see you around next time. Happy ZBrushing. Bye-bye.